You've probably heard the name Buddha, right? But who was he, really? Before he was this huge global icon, he was a man named Siddhartha Gautama. And he was a prince who made a choice that would literally change the course of history. So today, we're going to unpack the incredible story of the man who became the Buddha.
And it all kicks off with one big, central question. Just try to imagine this. You're born into incredible wealth, a palace, a whole kingdom just waiting for you. Why on earth would you just walk away from it all? That's the mystery at the very heart of Siddhartha's journey, and it's what we're going to get into.
All right, so our story starts right at the beginning with Siddhartha's birth. And, there was this prophecy that kind of cast a long shadow over his entire childhood. It put his father, the king, in a tough spot, and he became absolutely determined to control his son's destiny.
So the prophecy was basically a fork in the road. It said Siddhartha would either become a great king, a world conqueror, or a great spiritual teacher who would change the world in a totally different way. Well, his father, King Shuddhodana, wanted an heir to the throne, not some holy man, so he decided he'd do everything in his power to make sure his son never even considered that spiritual path.
And to do that, the king basically built his son a perfect world, a beautiful gilded cage. Siddhartha was born around 566 BC, and he was raised in a palace that had every luxury you could possibly imagine. But, and this is the crucial part, his father completely shielded him from anything that could cause him pain. He was never allowed to see sickness or old age or death. He got married at 16 and just lived this life completely disconnected from the real, messy reality of being human.
But here's the thing. You can't hide from reality forever, right? A perfect illusion is still just an illusion. And eventually, it is going to shatter. For Siddhartha, that moment was coming. And believe me, it was going to change absolutely everything.
29. That was the age. After almost 30 years of living in this paradise his father had built for him, Siddhartha decided he wanted to see what was outside the palace walls. And what he saw out there? Well, it would completely unravel his entire understanding of the world.
So the very first thing he sees is an old man, all stooped over and weak. Now, for you and me, that's just normal. But for Siddhartha, this was a massive shock. He'd never seen old age. He had to ask his chariot driver what was wrong with the man. And he learns that, this is what happens to everyone, including him. Then he saw a sick man, suffering, obviously in a lot of pain. And again, this was a totally new idea to him. The reality of illness, how fragile our bodies are. It just hit him so hard. The perfect, painless world he'd always known was really starting to crumble.
The third sight was the most devastating of all, a funeral procession, a dead body being carried. For the very first time, Siddhartha had to confront the raw, unavoidable fact of death. It suddenly clicked that life is temporary, that everyone he loved and he himself would one day be gone. This idea just shattered him.
Then came the fourth sight. In the middle of all this suffering he was now seeing, he spots a peaceful ascetic, a holy man who had given up all worldly things. And this man had nothing, but he just radiated this deep sense of calm. And that gave Siddhartha a little bit of hope. It was like a little clue that maybe, just maybe, there was a way to understand and get beyond all the suffering he'd just witnessed.
And that little bit of hope sparked a revolution inside him. There was no way he could go back to his old life, that life of luxury that now seemed so empty. So, not long after his own son was born, Siddhartha made a radical choice to leave it all behind and begin his great search for the truth.
He left the palace, his wife, his newborn baby, his royal title, everything. For years, he just wandered, looking for answers. He studied meditation with the best teachers around, reaching these amazing states of mind, but it wasn't enough. So then he tried the total opposite, extreme self-denial, basically starving himself, pushing his body to the limit. But he realized that wasn't the answer either. Neither total indulgence nor total denial was the path. So rejecting both of those extremes, Siddhartha decided to try his own way, what he called a middle way. He sat down under a Bodhi tree and vowed not to get up until he had found the answer to suffering. I mean, this was it. This was the moment his whole life had been leading up to.
So what exactly was he looking for? Enlightenment. And that's not just some cool idea. It's a direct, profound experience of how reality actually works. It's an understanding so deep and so complete that it brings an end to all suffering. And so, at the age of 35, after 6 long, hard years of searching, Siddhartha Gautama found what he was looking for.
Under that tree, he became the Buddha, which means the awakened one. And for the next 45 years, right up until his death at age 80, he would spend his life teaching other people the path that he had discovered. So after his enlightenment, he went to a deer park in a place called Sarnath. He found 5 of the guys he used to practice asceticism with, and right there, he gave his very first sermon. He laid out the fundamental discovery he'd made, and the core of that teaching is known as the Four Noble Truths. He presented it almost like a doctor giving a diagnosis. First, the symptom. Life involves suffering. That's the undeniable truth he saw when he left the palace. Second, the cause. The root of all this suffering is desire, our constant craving and wanting and clinging to things. Third, the prognosis. And this is the good news. Suffering can end. And fourth, the prescription. To end the suffering, you have to overcome that desire. It's such a simple but incredibly profound framework.
But maybe the most revolutionary thing about his teaching wasn't just what he taught, but who he taught it to. He didn't keep this wisdom for the priests or the nobles. Nope, he created a path that was open to absolutely everyone.
And this is so important to get. The Buddha never, ever claimed to be a god or some divine messenger. He was always clear, I am a human being who woke up. He wasn't looking for people to worship him. He was trying to get people to look for the truth themselves.
And this right here, this was his ultimate empowering message. The potential to wake up isn't just for a select few. He taught that it exists inside every single one of us, no matter who you are or where you come from. Enlightenment is something you can achieve through your own effort, through things like meditation and just living a mindful, disciplined life.
And that brings it all back to our own lives, doesn't it? The Buddha's story started with a prince who had everything anyone could possibly desire, only to find out it was all empty. His journey seems to tell us that real peace isn't found in getting everything we want, but in changing our relationship to wanting. And that leaves us with one final thought. If desire is the cause of suffering, then what is the key to happiness?